strategy is not a plan. It's not a set of strategic pillars. It's not a marketing tagline. And the vast majority of people think strategy is one of those things. Welcome back to Cardcast, the podcast where Milan and I pick a card at random from a deck of cards. Now, what's special about those cards? Milan, help us understand.
Cards like these, and part of the CEO game. Maybe brief history, started as notes because I'm terrible at taking notes, so I started writing cards instead. And then somebody came and say, hey, what are these? I said, well, they're notes for me. And they said, well, interesting, but not particularly useful. So I started writing articles for each. And then that's where you came in and said, hey, why don't we do a podcast with those things? And here we go. So this deck of cards, the CEO game. So there is a website where you can see them online, where you can use them as a tarot or just read them. Or you can get a deck, or of course you can get a podcast, and that's where you are right now. And as we always do at Cardcast, let's just shuffle the deck and pick one of the cards and see what comes up. And what came up is our Ace of Spades. Well, the most important card in the systems suit. Spades are all about systems and methods, and it's on strategy. My goodness, strategy, and the card says this to you, is like the most misused term in our business, isn't it? Jet, what do you
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a big problem, because so many people understand strategy in different ways. But they think their way is the way that everyone else understands it. So straight away, there's a misalignment of understanding, a misalignment of expectations. And one of the first jobs I do as a coach is to try and bring everyone together with a consistent common view of what strategy is. And I'm sure we'll talk about what that is over the podcast, but that to me is one of the first hurdles you've got to get across. If we all understand a different thing about what strategy is, we're going to formulate our strategy ourselves in our minds in completely different ways.
Oh, 100%.
And I've got a great. So you go, man. You go.
No. I just wanted to say, this is not limited to strategy, right? I think that there is so much in terminology. We talked about it a little bit in the episode on language, where really just because you understand a meaning of the word doesn't mean that the rest of the room understands it in the same way. Even though everybody's nodding, I know exactly what he's talking about. So it's worth spelling things out, agreeing on definitions of these keywords that we're going to be using a lot, and then repeating, because as another card says, repetition is good. Back to your story.
Yep. So I kicked off with a new client probably about 6-8 months ago now. 6 people in the leadership team, and when we did the kickoff, the CEO kept on saying to me, look, Jed, we don't need to spend much time on strategy. We're all aligned on strategy, so I think we can just move past this. And I said, okay, well, humor me for a moment. So I gave every one of the leadership team a Sharpie and a sticky note, and I each asked them to write down what they thought their strategy was. And something like this, I would normally put it up on the wall and get them to talk through it, but this wasn't the time to shine a light on where people were maybe wildly off. So all I did was I asked them to take their card, their sticky note, and pass it to the person on their right. So everyone just rotated the card, the sticky note, and didn't ask them to read it out. I just asked them to read the sticky note that had been passed to them. And every 30 seconds, I got them to rotate the sticky note one more place to the left. And once everyone had got their own sticky note back, I said to the room, not to the CEO, to the room, so what did we learn from that? And there was a long pause, a long silence. And then the CEO broke the silence and said, I think we've got to do a fair bit of work on strategy. We are not aligned.
That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful.
So no one got embarrassed. No one was shown up. All that happened was we understood there was misalignment.
Yeah, I'll give you my story. I was talking to a software vendor about a half year ago, and that company is, which I won't name, is billing their product as a system to align strategy and execution. So I'm talking to them, and they focus on enterprise and talking about that there are so many strategies in the organization. So as soon as I hear strategy in plural, that's the first red flag, right? But they're basically talking about it that, we have strategies, and now how do we turn them all the way to OKRs and KPIs? Like, every second word was an acronym. But again, nothing against them. I think that they actually have a quite valuable product for their niche. Absolutely no question. It's just that the terminology it literally took me 20 minutes to reverse engineer what that person said, to realize what they mean when they say strategy. And then I understood what is it that actually, what they actually do. Because again, strategy was, in their words, was a plan, was an experiment in some cases. It's like, we'll try different strategies. Okay. Yeah, you can do that in chess, but in business, you usually want to commit to one. And maybe we should stop teasing, and we should say what is the definition of strategy that we use. And as the more experienced coach here, I'll leave it in your hands.
Well, let's recognize Michael Porter before we go any further, because all of the work we do on strategy is largely based on Michael Porter's work. And if you've ever read Michael Porter's work on competitive strategy, well, first of all, it's a very, very thick book, and it's very, very hard to read. So we've taken that hard work and distilled it down into a few key points. But what Michael Porter is basically saying, and he's the grandfather of strategy, so I'm happy to sort of align my thinking up with his. Now, what Michael Porter says is that strategy is basically three things. And it is not what people think. It's not a plan. It's not a set of strategic pillars. It's not a set of strategic initiatives. It is three things. First of all, it's a unique position in the market. Secondly, it is valuable. So it is valuable to enough people to make the business viable. And that's my particular twist on it. I think you can build a company that makes 6-foot umbrellas, but there's very little market for them. So it might be unique. No one else makes 6-foot umbrellas, but there's very little market for it. So it's not valuable enough to enough people. Yeah. And the second thing is the set of activities. Now, the set of activities that you do, that either you do differently or make you different. Now, we all articulate strategy in slightly different ways, but for me, those are the three key things. It's unique, so it's different. It's valuable. People love it. And thirdly, how you bring that about is either done differently or is completely different. What's your take, Milan?
Well, I use obviously Michael Porter's definition as well, and that takes me back. A while ago, I was asked to build a workshop, which I've done several times since. Say, hey, we have this group of young founders, and we want a workshop on strategy. So just, and what do you want? Well, they should really leave with some idea of what strategy is and have a format of their strategy. You have 2 hours. So I was like, okay. So I went back to this definition, right? Strategy is achieving a unique and valuable market position through a set of differentiating activities. That is sort of the definition we're using. And I follow those three areas. Like, what does it mean to be unique? What does it mean to be valuable? What does a set of activities means, and how do we get there? And I think that if we dig into each one of them today, that will be maybe can take 2 hours workshop and squeeze it into 10 minutes.
Yep. Before we move on to those, diving deep into those, I think it's worth spending just a moment on what strategy isn't. So, a set of strategic pillars. It's not a marketing tagline. And the vast majority of people think strategy is one of those things. So when we introduce our perspective, it is often, nearly always, completely different to what people think strategy is. So you have to unwire that way of thinking whenever we're trying to work on strategy with clients, because they've already got a preconceived idea. I mean, I often hear people say, oh, these are our annual strategic priorities. They're not strategic at all. They're tactical. They're fixing things that shouldn't be broken in the first place. Yeah. Strategic things are intended to reinforce one of those three things: uniqueness, valuableness, and those differentiating activities that position you there.
Yeah, you use the word marketing in slightly different context that I want to use it, because in many companies, especially in enterprise and corporation, strategic is like organic, right? Its only purpose on the label is to increase the value of whatever it is you're pitching. Meaning, this is a strategic priority, or this is a strategic initiative. Therefore, I need a bigger budget, or you know, or it should take a priority over everything else, without actually understanding whether this is a strategic thing at all or not. So what is the difference between a strategic and a non-strategic thing, if we use the adjective instead of the noun here?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a marketing term. It is exactly that. It's to increase the perceived value in the person who hears the sentence. It has no value outside of that. Because most strategic, when someone says this is a strategic initiative, this is a strategic priority, what they probably mean is this is a tactic that we are using as one way of moving towards our strategy.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you would completely disregard the use of the adjective in a conversation. I was thinking that there actually might be. Yeah, I would use the definition. You know, if you say that something is strategic, that means that it's something that is moving you towards your strategy. And on the other hand, by definition, if your strategy is right, you shouldn't be doing anything else than things that are moving you towards the strategy. So yeah, you're right. So as a differentiator, it's meaningless.
Yeah.
Because if it's not strategic, why are you doing it?
Yeah. And I don't want to not use that term, but it's been so devalued that in using it, you're confusing the topic, you're confusing the whole conversation.
Yeah. I think that the analogy with organic or non-GMO kind of works. That you can we can use that. Okay, no GMO salt, like really?
Yeah. So let's dive deep into those three things: unique, valuable, and the set of activities. So unique is all about being different. You and I, when we start working with clients, they often say, "Oh, we've got to be great at everything." It's like, no, you've got to learn how to say no. You've got to choose consciously what you want to be really, really good at and what you don't care about. And if you don't, you try and be great at everything, which is too expensive. Over to you.
No, I just wanted to say, and how do you do that? Let me ask you as a student, how do you find out what is the filter on how unique you should be, whether you should just wear a sock on your head or, actually do something differently, or focus on a particular area where competition doesn't? What is the deciding factor? Trick question.
The only way to do that is to examine the market, analyze the market, see where the other people in the market are playing, and then identify somewhere where they're not. A combination of attributes that no one else is really playing in as well as you are, or as well as you can be within a relatively short period of time.
And where does that analysis start, or what does it start with?
If we're talking tools, we would start with the market map, and then we would move to the attribution framework. So the market map to understand our market, the attribution framework to look at where we fit against those attributes of the market, against our competitors. And that's going to show you where the white space is. And if you can see where no one else is competing, that gives you the story of where you want to position yourself within the next 2-3 years, so you can dominate that white space in the market. And then the differentiators fall out of that, because the differentiators are the things that you're going to have in place to be able to live in that white space.
Well, there is one element that you missed, so I'm taking a couple of points off your answer, and that is the who, right? You cannot have any of these conversations meaningfully without choosing and focusing on core customer. Because there might be a white space on the market because there isn't a customer who's buying in that white space. Just because nobody's competing there, maybe they have a good reason not to be there. So I think that the important piece is, and yes, we do the market map to understand how we operate and to find who our core customer is. And then we define the core customer, because For both of the the first two columns the strategy is built on, we need that core customer, right? Because unique is speaking specifically to a particular customer, and valuable to whom? Again, to the core customer. So without understanding who that core customer is, you're kind of, just floating around, and you might be doing strategic things instead of actually building a strategy.
I'm going to throw a question in here. What if there is a more valuable core customer in the market that you are not currently serving?
Oh,
I think you should go
100%.
into this. You should go into this with a core customer in mind, but I think the analysis should be around the market, because I've worked with clients where when we've done this analysis, we've realized that we're actually attacking the wrong core customer.
Oh, I'm totally with
Mm.
you. Understanding the market first, and then going into the market and picking up the right core customer, knowing that you might have been talking to the wrong one so far, or hey, how many boardrooms did you walk into and ask about a core customer, and you got 5 different versions, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, my personal record is 7 different definition of the word customer, let alone who actually they are, in literally a room full of 5 people. So this happens all the time. So I'm absolutely with you. I'm just that I don't think that you can go from the market map to differentiators without that core customer in the middle there. Again, understanding them, knowing them, and it's not necessarily focusing on them in this point, but they're always there as the outside voice, telling you, hey, I might not care about that, right?
Core customer for me, that talks to the second of those 3 points around strategy. We've talked about unique. It's the valuable bit that lines up with the core customer. So the core customer has to see your value. They've got to love what you do. Now that's where the value comes in. So unique and valuable ties to the core customer. Milana, you've got a pondering look on your face. So you disagree, or you have a different perspective. So I'll pause.
Well, I'm afraid to disagree with you, because I have a huge respect for your experience, and and I wonder that if I say something, my metronomic certification will be taken away from me. But the I think that even the unique has a customer implication. So I don't entirely agree with you. Because again, without customer, there is no business. And again, we just had a brief conversation that it's not that the customer is always right, but you need to understand them really, really well. Otherwise, again, you can be building a strategy that ultimately leads nowhere economically, right? You need to understand how many of those people you want to serve are
Absolutely.
there, what is your total addressable market, and so on and so on. And look, we know that everything we do is an iterative process, right? We'll get a piece into good enough state that allows us to move to the next one. And then we'll come back around to see, hey, what did we learn on that journey, and how can we refine it? Because all we're trying to do is tighten and simplify things and make them clearer and clearer, because the more clear they are, the less decision power we spend on things that are not strategic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that takes us on to the third of the triad. So the activities, the collection of activities, or the set of activities. Now, a lot of people get confused here, because it's the set of activities that, when combined, they are the things that put you in a place where you can play in that white space where no one else can, because they can't do it as well as you. Now, that doesn't mean you're a 5 out of 5. You could be a 4 out of 5 if everyone else is a 1 or a 2 or a 3. There just has to be a gap between how well you do something around a particular area and everyone else. So you have to choose those activities that, when interconnected, place you in that white space. And that is probably one of the hardest things about strategy, apart from saying no, of course.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Well, we talked briefly about the activity fit map. So this is another Michael Porter tool. No surprise here. We're calling a lot on Michael Porter today. And the activity fit map is, and we haven't got time to go through the process we go through to build it out, but it's essentially the 3
Call
to
Jet
5
if you want to know
differentiators,
more. Yeah, okay.
or Milan, depending on where in the world you are. Yeah. Yeah. It's 3 to 5 differentiators. Now, the differentiators themselves do not need to be unique. It is the interconnections, the interactions between them. Now, those 3 to 5 differentiators will probably have 15 to 20 supporting activities that need to be in place to bring those differentiators to life. Yeah, so it's a very abstract thing to describe, but when you see it as an activity fit map on paper, the differentiators are the big circles, the lines in between them, the interconnections, and then the smaller circles that go all around them. They're the supporting activities. There's some great examples out there, Southwest Airlines, IKEA, a whole bunch of different companies where their activity fit maps have been mapped. And that really allows you to tell the story about what your strategy is, because your strategy is in effect how you interconnect all those differentiators and supporting activities. That tells the story of how you are unique, how you are valuable, and how you can dominate your white space. Now, those differentiators might not be in place quite yet. Now, they may be at a 3 out of 5. And that's really where and I'm going to use the term strategic now, that's where your strategic roadmap that we call swim lanes, that's where that comes in. Because that is the execution plan of how quarter on quarter you execute on that strategy to bring it to life.
Activity fit map and, the attribution framework that leads to it are two tools that I ended up deciding not to write a card on. And reason for that,
you did.
No, the reason for that is very, very simple. The idea of the card is, hey, here is an idea and here is a tip. One thing that you can just pick and immediately use the same day, as you read the card from your random draw in the morning. And these things are just way beyond that. That's it's a whole day workshop with a team to put that together. And just to put a hint that you can't take anything away from, that's not the purpose of the card. As you said, you need a thick book on it, or you need a workshop with the facilitator to make that happen. I didn't use the word coach. I felt shy about, such a shameless plug, but hey, here we are. You should get a coach. And
you need a coach. You need a coach.
You need a coach. Absolutely. You need. Where do we go from here? I think that we cover those 3 areas. Maybe let's talk about the biggest mishaps that we see. I think that the multiple strategies, not understanding the customer, not understanding the market you're actually playing in, are huge. Operating on assumptions, especially when the assumptions are different with the different people in the room. So again, your strategy should be clear, simple, one sentence. This is what we're doing, right? The big companies we talked about very often brought it down to 2 words, right?
Yeah.
Or 1, right? And then if everybody in the organization knows that, then they can make the connection of their day activities to what is it that the strategy is, and allows them to make the proper strategic decisions, even if they are very, very small, in the benefit of that. And they don't need a complicated system of how to connect the two, because again, they're making their million decisions every day. And if they have the proper framework and understanding of the strategy of the organization, then it's actually pretty easy to draw the line between, okay, this is what we're trying to do, and this is what I need to decide right now.
Yeah, for me, the biggest problem I see in trying to formulate or craft strategy in an organization is trying to do it with a leadership team that cannot think strategically.
Yeah, and now we have an adverb, even better.
Indeed.
Okay, let's dig into it.
So what I mean by that is you have a leadership team that are effectively functional leaders who are great at their craft, which probably involves a lot of execution, but they haven't yet built the skills and the expertise to be able to think big picture, think blue skies, think strategically. Mm-hmm. So what you end up with is, this is often where I see it taking at least 2 attempts to get the strategy right, if not more, because the first strategy is really just a collection of their execution activities. And we need to go around again, and we need to refine it, evolve it, validate it again before something that makes more sense comes out. And that's you just got to let the coaching take place so people can start to see the bigger picture before they can start to think strategically.
Yeah, there is anywhere between 17 and 235 aha moments that the team needs to go through in order to come to that big aha moment and say, okay, this is actually what our strategy is. Because every time we improve something, we learn something, right? We'll find a new gap, and we get a bit better. As you were talking about this, you know what? The problem of lack of strategic thinking very often comes to one thing, and that's a permission. You might have people that are perfectly capable of the thinking, but the way the company has been run never allowed them to be there because, hey, you had the founder and they own the strategy, and everybody, the Santa and thousand helpers, thousand elves type of organization. So very often the obstacle for us to come through in order to establish a strategy in the organization is the founder themselves, right?
Yeah.
Or the CEO themselves that is not activating the brains of the people in the room. And then, of course, you might have the wrong people in the room, and we talked about it in different episodes.
Yeah. I think the other thing that makes people not be able to think strategically is they're just in the weeds. You've got to help them clear their desks. You've got to help them move their jobs onto other people, delegate them to people who want them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that they actually have time to think strategically.
Well, that goes back to one of my guiding principles and the purpose of my practice, which is really about growing people, right? That's all we're doing is to allow, and then doing it in cascading way, because, hey, if your leader grows, that by definition is creating a gap for other people to grow into, and that should be their primary job, because once you do that, magic happens, right? Because then you have this unstoppable draft force, pulling the whole organization up, which is a beautiful thing when that happens. It takes a lot of work on all levels of the organization. I'm actually now talking about to a company that, when I say leader, I mean anybody who has people in their care, right? So in corporation, it can be from supervisor all the way to CEO. There is actually a massive subset of all the skills that are not only the same, but also should be taught and applied consistently across the organization, because then it's going to just simplify your succession planning and all of those things. And turning a large organization like this around is interesting, challenging, and incredibly rewarding, because the energy is just changing so fast. It's a beautiful thing to see. Anyway, that took us a little way over from, but I think it's underscoring the fact of how important that is, and how many different pieces within the organization are supporting the strategy one way or the other, or how a missing one of the foundations, and again, Metronomics has 7 systems, and ultimately, even though we call one of them strategic, all of them need to be in support of it. If you have a gap somewhere in your people system, for example, the best strategy is never going to happen.
Yeah, I think strategy is probably one of the hardest parts conceptually of what we do. The human side, conceptually it's relatively straightforward. It's just hard. Strategy conceptually is difficult, but once you understand how to do it, it's actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that as any consultant coach in the world, I love my 2x2 matrix, right? And the easy, hard, simple, complicated, quadrants are quite interesting. Yeah, and the strategy is definitely in the complicated to get to, but then easy to play on once you get there.
Yeah, once you understand it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, majority of the work we do is in the simple but hard. Very simple to understand, hard to implement because of the inertia in the organization. Strategy is different. All right.
Yeah, because it's people. Yeah.
A little bit longer episode today, but hopefully it was valuable. And thanks everybody for listening. If you made it this far, and again, check out the CEO game and see what else you can find.